Let me introduce you to a couple that represents the American dream. This is Mark, a software engineer, and Sarah, a marketing manager. Mark pulls in $90,000. Sarah brings home $75,000. That is a combined household income of $165,000 a year. By every statistical definition, they are crushing it. They're in the top 20% of U.S. households. They live in a nice neighborhood with good schools. They drive SUVs that smell like new leather. They take that obligatory trip to Disney World or Europe every summer to post on Instagram. On the surface, they're the picture of success. But let's put on our X-ray glasses and look at what's actually happening inside that house. Despite $14,000 hitting their bank account every month, they are suffocating. They have exactly $4,000 in their checking account. They have $18,000 in credit card debt, revolving at 24% interest. And their savings rate? It's practically zero. Last week, when the transmission on the SUV blew out, they didn't pay cash. They panicked. They put it on the Visa card and prayed for a bonus that isn't guaranteed. Look at their faces. They aren't happy. They are exhausted. They work 50 hours a week, commute for 10, and spend their weekends doing chores because they can't afford help. They barely see each other. The romance is replaced by logistical conversations about who is picking up the kids and which bill is overdue. They did everything society told them to do. Go to college, get the degree, get the corporate job, buy the house. So why does it feel like they are drowning in the shallow end of the pool? If you feel like Mark and Sarah, you aren't crazy. You are being scammed. But it's not a scam by a guy in a hoodie stealing your password. It is a mathematical scam designed by the modern economy. It's called the two-income trap. See, we've been sold a lie that 2 paychecks mean double the wealth. It seems like basic math, right? 1 + 1 = 2. But in the U.S. economy, 1 + 1 actually equals 0, or sometimes negative. The banks, the real estate market, and the government love two-income families. Why? Because you are the perfect milk cow. You are too busy working to notice you're being fleeced, and you make just enough money to qualify for debt you can never pay off. You aren't building an empire. You are financing your own cage. And the lock on that cage is your lifestyle. My name is MrBi, and on this channel, we don't do comforting lies. We look at the raw data. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why your dual-income household is leaving you broke. I'm going to break down the brutal math of taxes, childcare, and lifestyle inflation that eats your second income alive. And then, I'm going to show you the only way to escape. If you are tired of running on the hamster wheel, hit that subscribe button. Let's follow the money. Now let's get down to the cold, hard numbers, because math doesn't care about your feelings. Most couples think that adding a second income is like adding a second engine to a plane, but they forget that the government is waiting at the runway to strip parts off that engine before you even take off. Let's look at Sarah's $65,000 salary again. On paper, it's a massive boost, but because of the progressive tax system in the United States, that second income is taxed at your highest marginal rate. Mark's income already filled up the lower tax brackets. Every dollar Sarah earns is now being hit by federal income tax, state tax, and FICA at the top of the pile. By the time the IRS takes their cut, that $65,000 has already shriveled down to roughly $47,000. You were working January to April just to pay Uncle Sam for the privilege of having a second job. But wait, the bleeding has just begun. If Mark and Sarah have 2 children, they face the biggest wealth killer in modern history: childcare. In 1970, this expense was 0 because one parent was home. In 2026, quality daycare in a major American city can easily cost $2,500 per month per child. That is $30,000 a year for one kid, or $60,000 for 2. Even with a modest estimate of $32,000 a year for childcare, Sarah's remaining $47,000 is now down to $15,000. Think about that. She's working 2,000 hours a year, dealing with corporate stress and office politics, just to bring home an extra $15,000. We haven't even talked about the commute yet. To earn that second income, you need a second way to get to work. That means a second car payment, second insurance policy, second registration fee, and double the fuel costs. In 2026, the average cost of owning and operating a new vehicle is over $12,000 a year. Even if they use an older car, between maintenance, gas, and parking fees in downtown areas, they're looking at another $8,000 out the window. Now, Sarah's contribution to the household is down to $7,000. We started with 65,000, now we're at 7. That is less than the cost of a high-end espresso machine and a few nice dinners. But the trap goes even deeper than just the direct costs. When you have two parents working 50 hours a week, you lose the most valuable asset of all: time. Time is what allows you to cook at home, maintain your own lawn, and shop for bargains. When Mark and Sarah get home at 7 p.m., they are physically and mentally shattered. They don't have the energy to meal prep or scrub the floors, so they pay for convenience. They order Uber Eats 3 times a week. They hire a cleaning service. They pay for a lawn crew. They buy pre-cut vegetables and frozen meals that cost triple the price of raw ingredients. These exhaustion expenses easily add up to another $6,000 a year. Suddenly, Sarah's entire year of labor has netted the family exactly $1,000. So why do they do it? Why stay in the trap? Because of the bidding war. Since almost every family now has 2 incomes, everyone has more money to bid on the same limited supply of houses in good school districts. You aren't paying for a better house than your parents had. You are paying double the price just to live in a neighborhood that isn't dangerous. Your 2 incomes have been baked into the price of real estate. The banks know exactly how much you can afford together, and they have pushed prices to the absolute limit of your combined sanity. You need the second income just to pay the mortgage on a house that used to cost 1/3 as much. This is the reality of the zero-margin life. Mark and Sarah are earning $165,000, but they are functionally broke. They have traded their freedom, their time with their children, and their peace of mind for the appearance of middle-class success. They are one layoff, one medical emergency, or one car accident away from total financial collapse because they have no backup plan. The stay-at-home parent, the insurance policy of the 1970s, no longer exists. Both engines are running at 100% capacity just to stay level, and there is no fuel left in the tank. This is the math of the trap. It's not a mistake, it's the design. If you were feeling attacked by the math in the last segment, good. That discomfort is the first step towards freedom. But now we stop looking at the problem and start building the solution. The biggest mistake Mark and Sarah made wasn't working 2 jobs, it was building a life that required 2 jobs. To escape the 2-income trap, you must perform a radical mindset shift. You need to stop seeing your combined income as one big pile of money. Instead, you need to start practicing what I call artificial scarcity. You have to trick your lifestyle into believing you are poorer than you actually are, so that one day you can be richer than you ever imagined. The first pillar of the MrBi strategy is the 1-income foundation. From this moment forward, your fixed costs, your mortgage, your car payments, your insurance, and your groceries must fit within the take-home pay of the lower-earning partner. If Mark makes $90,000 and Sarah makes $65,000, you build a life that functions on $65,000. I know what you're thinking. MrBi, that's impossible in this economy. It's not impossible, it's just unpopular. It means buying a smaller house in a less trendy zip code. It means driving a 10-year-old Toyota instead of a leased Tesla. It means choosing resilience over status. So what happens to the second income, that $75,000 from the higher earner? That is no longer spending money. That is your freedom cannon. You point that cannon at your obstacles and you fire until they are gone. Step 1. Build a 6-month emergency fund in record time. Step 2. Obliterate every cent of high-interest debt. Step 3. Max out your retirement accounts and bridge the gap with taxable brokerage investments. When you aren't using your second income to pay for a bloated lifestyle, you are using it to buy back your time. You are buying the right to say no to a toxic boss or a soul-crushing commute. Within 5 to 7 years of living on one income and investing the second income, something magical happens. Optionality. You reach a point where your investments generate enough cash flow to cover your basic needs. Now the trap is gone. If Sarah wants to stay home with the kids for a few years, she can. If Mark wants to quit his high-stress tech job to start a small business, he can. The house is secure because the mortgage was never dependent on both of them grinding. You have reclaimed the freedom that our grandparents had in 1970, but with the wealth of a modern dual-income household. You have cheated the system by refusing to play its game. We've spent a lot of time talking about math, taxes, and interest rates, but the 2-income trap isn't really about money. It's about control. In the old world, the family was the unit of power because they had a safety net. Today, the corporation and the bank are the unit of power because they own your time. When both parents are exhausted, who raises the children? The screen. Who feeds the family? The corporation. Who manages the stress? The pharmaceutical industry. By forcing both parents into the workforce just to survive, society has effectively outsourced the family. You aren't just working for a paycheck, you are paying a tax on your very existence. Living on one income in a two-income world is an act of rebellion. It is a quiet revolution. It says to the world, I don't need your approval and I don't need your debt. When you have margin, you have power. You have the power to stay home when a child is sick without asking a boss. You have the power to wait for the right opportunity instead of jumping at the first paycheck because the mortgage is due. Resilience is the only true wealth. Everything else is just numbers on a screen that can disappear in a market crash. The goal isn't to be rich. The goal is to be untouchable. Tonight, I want you to sit down